Yugen Kerr provided firing solutions to 3 different ships as fast as he could. His job was to copy the number strings calculated by the human AI into the correct windows, which he did with 2 presses, and he was starting to question the reasonableness of such a method. The AI, much to his chagrin, did so almost incessantly. "I'll give you a script, you don't even need to plug me into the main system," it argued once more. "It's starting to get on my nerves, and I'm just a bunch of signals traveling through a crystal." Yugen did not like its tone. Yes, his race's data processing capabilities were Iron Age compared to the humans. Every race's data processing capabilities were Iron Age compared to the humans, for Goodmunner's sake. He was aware. And, as an individual highly educated on the subject, he did not like to be reminded. "Tuna, the 3rd ship has launched another fighter wave," Jagen Ver, responsible for equipments, informed Meller Fay, the higher-ranked officer inside the fighter. "We will need to power our 2nd plasma generator, or the cycling will get too long." Tuna Fay clacked his shoulder plates in acknowledgement. "Do it." At this, Jagen dropped from his cocoon and quickly ran into the reactor's room. "How you people still not have that slave to a switch on the main console, I will never understand," the ill-fated AI chirped once more. At the rear of the room, chuckles were heard. Yugen was also starting to hate that sound, it was not one his species made. "How do you activate your FTL drives? Join 2 naked wires." The weapons officer decided to completely ignore the remark and keep pressing. However, it just reminded him that he, one of the best weapons technicians to ever fly in the Navy, had been reduced to mere copy-paster by something human-made. He drove the miserable thought away, angrily. At least they were winning. The war with the Gruul, a neighboring race, had been evenly matched from its very beginning. Until, of course, the battle in the Mulini system. During that particular battle, an entire arm of the Urgan Navy's 2nd body had been annihilated, and none of the few survivors knew how. According to them, and the salvaged ship logs, they had not been taken down by the huge fleet ships, or by any remotely located weapon. They had perished at the hands of powerful plasma bolts that pierced their shields and right through the hull to the reactor's rooms. Bolts very similar to those used by the Gruul fighter crafts. The bastards, in an enraging display of ingenuity, had painted their fighters with a pigment outside his kind's visual range. Urgan sensors were not capable of detecting such small and agile craft. So their own pilots relied solely on visual information to counter the enemy. In atmosphere, such tactic would never work. But in the dark of space, they were colorless against colorless. Engineers struggled greatly to find a working solution. They had to improve their sensors enough to pinpoint the enemy and develop a program that gave them solid target solutions. This was not the problem and could be achieved easily. The problem resided in the fact that nothing smaller than a long-distance commercial ship could hold the necessary hardware. And so they turned to one of their previous ideas. Smaller range sensors that fit snugly inside their largest fighter, the NO-RG, and converted the data gathered into viewable images on the fighter's view screen. However, the sensor left no space for processing gear and cycling data through the bigger ships for conversion made for huge lag. Not acceptable for targets in complex motion. It was then, one Urgan, a young one, made a daring suggestion. They could ask for help. There was no time to rally their allies, but they could still ask. They could ask the young race originating from the Sol system. They could ask the humans. He was, of course, promptly thrown out the room. But the idea seed had been planted, and the young one had a point. Humans could help. Those fleshy lumps did, after all, surpass everyone when it came to electronics. What the Urgan could barely fit in a hive, the humans could fit in their hands. While the Urgan struggled to store and process data, the humans had created programs which emulated sentience. They had been the first species in known space to succeed in the creation of artificial intelligence. AIs that learned from experience, at that. And they could store them in tiny crystals too. Crystals that held not only the AI's matrix, but also its processing space. In a rock no bigger than Yugen's eye, they held a fully functional intelligent being. By fitting quantum transmitters to those rocks, connecting them to their internet, the possibilities were endless. But the humans weren't completely mindless. While common among their people, those powerful AIs were rarely found in others' hands. In an uncharacteristic bout of caution, the humans had kept them for themselves. And because prejudice ran unchecked in most races, demand for their advanced technology was not as high as one would first think. Both Ergen and Grull would never fight a war with human systems. It was simply unthinkable, dishonorable. But desperation was growing. So, the higher-ups designed a plan that, although making use of humans, did not feel entirely like cheating. They fitted the sensors to the big fighters and got hold of as many human mercenaries as they found within range, which was a considerable figure. For their low numbers, when compared to other races, they sure seemed to be everywhere. Now armed with powerful processing capability, one AI was assigned to each NO-RG, with the purpose of managing its view screen and computing target coordinates for the smaller fighters, which would shoot blind. A solution far from perfect, clearly, but a solution nonetheless. A solution that kept human interference localized and constrained to the strictly needed. Since the AIs could run off their own power and communicate with Ergen ship systems without being physically plugged to them. A solution that left Yugen stranded in his fighter with a human AI and its owner. The human, a female he'd been told, sat at the back of the command room, watching the screen intently, and occasionally issuing commands to the artificial intelligence, or chuckling at its remarks. All humans had been told not to take part in the fight, but they vehemently refused to part with their creations. They went as far as calling the AIs friends. Yugen had ardently hoped he would not get paired with one of those, but he seemed to be out of luck these last few days. He'd even lost a quarter of his salary at a dice game. One, of course, brought aboard by the humans. In the weapons officer monitor, a string of numbers disappeared from the incoming window and reappeared in one of the others. Then another, and a fourth. He stared baffled as the targeting solutions entered in his terminal to leave for their intended recipient the next moment without him having to move a claw. That was not right. "What did you do?" he asked, half in a panic. "That script I was telling you about," the AI answered. "It's much more pleasant without your constant typing. Not to mention more efficient. One variable I don't have to work with anymore. Keeping track of all Grull ships in range, plus ours, plus 3 other fighters, while firing our weapons and calculating when the others should fire too, is enough work without me having to account for your pasting speed. It really depends on a lot of things, you know. Your reaction speed, the keyboard hit detection lag, the queue on your terminal." The AI sighed. "But that's not the only inefficient thing around. I could be working as a real-time radar-like thing for those other fighters, you know. Actually let them see what they're shooting. Hell, if you people make any sense." Yugen wasn't even listening. He was still frantic over his self-moving lines. "Make it stop already," he nearly barked at the AI. "No," was the answer. "I refuse to work like that again. Turn it back, you crazy computer prog." Yugen was interrupted by a loud bang, propagated through the fighter's entire structure. The view screen went black for a moment, then the space around their craft appeared in its natural colors. "Equipments," Yugen screeched. "The sensors down, Tuna. We have no visuals." Tuna Fey wasted no time. Opening a feed to his ship collective, he ordered careful but swift retreat. "We must go back for immediate repairs. Fighters, shield yourselves in the main carrier." Cutting the feed, he turned to navigation. "Jaller Nero. Take us to the hangar. Don't hit anything." Jaller's shoulder plates trembled against each other. Tuna, that will be near impossible. He whistled out meekly. Yugin felt his comrade's pain. Neither they, nor the other 3 fighters would reach safety. But they would try. That they sure as good Munner would. In her spot at the back of the room, the human stood. Jester, connect to my neurals. Send targets as previously established. She said in a smooth flowing voice, walking towards Jallar's cocoon. Let me sit, will ya? While Jallar watched her with gaping, scared eyes, Tuna Fey demanded her stand down. Now look here. I've put up with your stupid far-fetched plan long enough. Back to the navigation officer. Move. I'm not going to die today because you prideful morons can't accept my help. And what do you intend to do? Tuna questioned, while the human quite effortlessly dragged Jallar out of his cocoon. Fly this bird, shoot the Gruul. And how do you intend to do that, without the means of detecting them? The Tuna was furious. He barely showed it, but he was beyond raging. Yet the human dared smile. I see red. Yugin clicked a mandible, a clear sign of confusion. She intended to fight them with rage. What does being angry have to do with it? Can't you understand? It's futile without the sensor. She raised one of her facial hair patches for a moment before turning deadly serious. You're the one who don't understand. It's annoying as all hells how little you people care to research our biology. What I'm saying is that I can fucking see red. And with this final outburst, she settled into the cocoon, grabbed the slightly disproportioned commands. And plasma guns blazing, steered Yugin's entire team through the wildest fighter skirmish any of them, including their well-seasoned Tuna, had ever had the displeasure of being involved in. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.